Hey guys, it's Darwin here with some tips and tricks on how to keep your feet happy when you're out on the trail. Alright, so in a lot of my videos we talk about gear and things that you can do to lighten your load and keep you happy and healthy on the trail. But one thing that I never talk about are your feet. Your feet are like your most valuable asset when you're doing a hike. Why? They're the ones that are taking that beating every day and getting you from point A to point B on the trail, taking the abuse. So you need to take care of your feet because a foot injury or some sort of an infection or something in your foot can take you off of a trail and end your hike pretty damn fast. So there are a handful of precautions that you can do pre-trail to make sure you're gonna keep your feet happy. Number one, and probably the biggest one, is getting the right shoe or boot. Spend a lot of time and make sure that the footwear that you're choosing to do your hike with is going to be the best for you. Don't just get a pair of hiking boots or hiking shoes based on some sort of a review or what you like or what felt good in the store for a couple seconds and then later find out that you made the wrong footwear choice and you're getting some problems from them. Take about 2 or 3 months before a hike and go try on a bunch of different shoes. Try on shoes, boots, different styles, and make sure that it's going to be a perfect fit for your foot. Same with insoles. Try a handful of different insoles and find out what's going to work best for you. Choosing the wrong footwear can give you a ton of different problems on the trail that you don't want to deal with. Now, one rule of thumb that I use when selecting a pair of shoes on size is actually using the thumb rule. So I'll actually put my thumb down on my shoe and make sure that I have about a thumb's width between the toe box and my big toe. Why? Because when I'm descending, I don't want my toes and my nails bumping my toe box because that can cause black toenails, which you definitely don't want. And it can also cause ingrown toenails. Speaking of ingrown toenails, my buddy Knott's just beat the fastest known self-supported hike on the Appalachian Trail about a month ago. Now, even though he smashed the record and he finished, he dealt with some major ingrown toenail issues. Now, whether that was because he didn't really take care of his feet or because he wore too small of a shoe, but it put him in a lot of pain and gave him a lot of problems. Now, he says that he probably could have finished the trail much faster if he wouldn't have had those toe problems that he was dealing with through the last half of that trail. So definitely pick the right footwear because it can make all the difference in your hike. So the second thing that you can pick up before you hit the trail to prevent some foot problems are sock liners. Now, I've talked about these in a previous video and I'm a huge advocate for them. Pretty much what a sock liner is it's another sock that you wear under your other sock to help take down friction between your sock, your shoe, and say your heel or toe. So it helps prevent blisters. And if you get something like a CoolMax sock, it also helps keep your feet dry and keep them from sweating so much so you don't build up a lot of moisture in your shoe and get really gnarly blisters. Now, typically a blister is something you can take care of on the trail, but there are people that have been taken off the trail because the entire bottom of their foot was just one giant blister. Ouch. So if you haven't done it already, you might suggest picking up some sock liners. And then the third thing that you can pick up before you hit the trail to make sure you're keeping your feet happy are gaiters. Again, I talk about these guys in a lot of my videos, and what a gaiter does is it keeps little pebbles, rocks, sand out of your shoe, creating more friction and creating more problems. If you get a little rock in your shoe and you're hiking on it all day, it can really rub into your foot, either create a hot spot, a blister, or even worse, it can cut you open. So just having something as simple as a gaiter, like one of these dirty girls that's super light and you barely even notice they're there, can definitely save your feet in the long run. So pick up some gaiters. Okay, so not only can you pick those things up before you hit the trail to help prevent future foot problems, but I think every hiker should have these things in their pack just in case they do have some sort of foot issues. That way you can take care of it while you're out there. So number one, and I don't talk about them a lot, but I always have in my pack, are nail clippers. Super simple, super easy. This should be a duh to most people. But keeping your toenails trimmed is definitely going to promote good foot care, and it's going to prevent you from getting things like black toenails and ingrown toenails. Now again, I don't know if Knott's was carrying a pair of toe clippers, But if he would have had some, he might have been able to trim back those toenails and keeping that injury to a minimum. There's nothing worse than the feeling of descending a mountain, you're coming down something real steep, and your toenails are just smacking into the foot box of your shoe. It really hurts and it creates a lot of problems. So keep a pair of nail clippers in your pack because you might need them. The second thing that every hiker should have in their pack is some sort of a Leuko tape or a Moleskin. Now, as most of you might know, I'm a big advocate for Leuko tape. I absolutely love this stuff. It lasts forever. It does a really good job of staying on a hot spot and not going anywhere. But if Moleskin is your thing, definitely pick that up because it's going to be better than nothing. So the whole point of having something like Leuko tape or Moleskin is it acts as a second skin. So if you have one of those hot spots, a cut, or a blister, you can take this stuff, put it over the area so you're not creating more rubbage and more friction to make the injury worse. Last year in 2016 on the trail, I used a lot of this stuff. I actually broke one of my pinky toes and I used this stuff a lot to pretty much bandage my pinky toe to the toe next to it to kind of use it as a splint. So I didn't necessarily use it for blisters, which it's great for, but I did use it for my feet on the trail. So I definitely always make sure that I have this stuff in my pack. And then last but not least is a sewing kit. So not only is a sewing kit great for repairing gear out in the field, but what I use it for is a needle and thread is great for popping a blister. And there's a little through hiking trick. If you take your needle and thread and you thread it through the blister, cut off both sides of the thread and leave the thread in there, it'll help the blister drain and won't allow it to seal back up. So it'll let it heal a lot faster. Then you can take some Leuko tape, slap it over the top, and you're good to go. So again, make sure that you have some needle and thread in your pack because you never know when you're gonna need to kill one of those blisters. All right, so now we have some pre-hike things that we can do to make sure our feet are happy. We have some items in our pack to make sure that we can take care of foot injuries if they do happen. But what are just some great practices that you can do to keep your feet happy while you're hiking? So my number one tip is let your feet breathe. Both in 2015 and 2016, and pretty much any time Snuggles and I are out on the trail, we stop during the day to take a break. Whether that's lunch or filtering water or just taking a breather, we take our socks and our shoes off and we let our feet breathe. We let them air out and we let them rest. Again, people, your feet are like your most valuable asset on the trail, so take care of them. Take that little bit of time to let them breathe so they're not getting too soggy, too sweaty, and too cramped up in your shoe. Just letting them breathe and air out for like 30 minutes will make a massive difference on the rest of your day of hiking. So not only is it good to let your feet breathe, but also switch your socks and liners every single day. Now, one trick that I've been doing for years is I always carry 2 pairs of socks on me. So the pair that I'm wearing, that's socks and liners, and a spare pair that's in my pack. And every day I switch them back and forth. Why? So my feet don't get used to the same rubbage, the same creases, the same stitching, all the same things in the sock, so I'm not creating overuse injuries. My feet aren't getting familiar with that sock. Plus, it helps keep foot funk to a minimum. Now, another thing that you can do is the socks that you wore that day, you can take them to a creek or some sort of a pond if you're by one and wash and wring them out. And that brings me to my third trick, and that is drying your socks out. So if you've been hiking all day in the rain, if you've been doing river or creek crossings, or if you simply just wash your socks out at the end of the day, you can take both of your trekking poles, stick them in the ground, and then take your sock and fit them over that. Let them dry all night long. That way you're not hiking in wet, damp socks. One great way to cause some sort of a foot fungus or swamp foot or something like that is hiking in nasty wet socks. So dry your socks out. All right, and then the last thing that you can do to keep your feet happy out on the trail is keeping the swelling down on them. Now, when you're out on the trail and you're pounding them up against rocks, climbing mountains, descending, every day, they're swelling. They're getting a lot of bad lactated blood in them, and they're gonna swell up and cause you problems. So a couple things that you can do to keep that swelling down are, number one, throughout the day or even at camp, when you get there, put your feet up. Find some sort of a tree, a shelter wall, take your socks and your shoes on, and elevate your feet. Get your feet above your heart. That way all that bad lactated blood is running back down to your core is burning out the lactate, and then whenever you stand back up, you're getting fresh blood back in your feet, and that will keep the swelling down and keep them super happy for that next day of hiking. So even though most of this stuff should be common sense for most hikers, before Snuggles and I hit the trail in 2015, Snuggles actually found and read a book called Fix Your Feet, a foot care guide for athletes. Snuggles read that and it taught us a bunch of great tips. Again, most of this stuff should be common sense, but if you want to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description box below and you can go check that book out. Snuggles really liked it and took a lot from it. Alright guys, so hopefully some of these tricks and tips will help you keep your feet happy and help you finish your hike without having some sort of gnarly foot problem. So what are some tips and tricks that you guys have for good foot care out on the trail? Leave them in the comments section below and let me know your thoughts. If you haven't got a chance yet, go over and check me out on Instagram. I've been posting a lot of new photos lately of some of the things that Snuggles and I have going on throughout the week, plus some pictures from some past hikes. If you found any value in this video, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and as always guys, thanks for watching.